All right, hello out there. It is now in the fifth week of our Lenten reading through the books of 1st and 2nd Samuel, day number 21. I want to express appreciation and gratitude to those who are participating. It's a lengthy process, it requires commitment, and it's easy to get started, but more challenging to maintain. And so I want to give a special thank you to all of you. All right, we left off at the conclusion of last week. David is king. Finally, things are going right. He's making good decisions, subduing enemies. The foreign policy is great. And then we even caught a glimpse of domestic policy, I'll call it, with David's kindness toward Mephibosheth. It's all looking good. After everything we dealt with Saul, it's nice to have a hero rather than a villain. And in fact, if you survey Old Testament theology, looking for a synopsis, a synthesis of the entire story here of the Hebrews, this moment here in the early part of 2nd Samuel that we've reached to today is probably the highlight of Jewish history as far as our theological narratives carry us in the Old Testament. This is the most stable, most successful, and prominent part of their history in biblical theology. And so we continue the reading. It's chapter 10. The king of the Ammonites die. David has had peaceful relations with this king. The son is going to succeed the demised king. And so David wants to express that he is going to keep the covenant, the agreement, the treaty with the new king, the successor, as he had done with the previous king. David's going to send part of his cabinet there with a message to, give sympathy over the death of the king. However, the new king, he's got advisors who are going to make a miscalculation. David's doesn't send his men here to as a measure of goodwill and sympathy. Rather, really, they're spies. And so they're going to seize David's servants. They're going to cut off half of each one's beard, and they're going to cut off their robes, and these men are going to be exposed. Well, yeah, that's a diplomatic disaster, right? Okay, we get that. Of course, in an honor-shame culture, this is much more serious. These are fighting words. These are serious, hostile situations, and now there's kind of a hostage situation that's going on. David's upset. Well, the Ammonites realize David's upset, and so they say, we're going to go to war. And David, of course, is going to take them out. And David's going to not only take out the Ammonites, but also the Arameans. And by the end of the chapter, everyone's intimidated by David. All he does is win, no matter what. And they're all ready to make peace with him. And this really right here is the peak of Hebrew biblical theology as far as the narrative of the story of a people is given. Because then we go into chapter number 11, and it begins to come down the other side of that crescendo. Now, I'll spend a little more time with this. It remarks early on in this 11th chapter, it was the spring of the year when kings normally conduct wars. David sends out his people, but David remains home. David has been nothing but a warrior the entire time we've encountered him. And now he's no warrior. He's staying home, and he is napping and waking up in the evening. He may not be keeping the best, most responsible schedule. And here is this woman bathing. She's attractive. Now, we probably generally see this, this is the woman next door on the other side of the fence, right? However, David is in a very elevated palace, very high. It's fortified. There's homes that are at somewhat of a distance. And so he's got the elevated position. He looks down. This woman is bathing. Um, it's not going to be that close of what he's seeing, but he's seeing enough to get him interested. Maybe something of like a silhouette. She's bathing, and that one of the things that some traditionally have said is that what in the world is she doing bathing on a roof in view of the king's palace? Well, the thing is this: David's not where he's supposed to be. And if we know Hebrew culture, we realize, well, it's not that simple. She's kind of where she is supposed to be. She's going through bathing, a ritualistic bathing. It's telling us basically that she has come off of her cycle and she's bathing and getting cleaned up. And she is heading toward fertility. All right, so David sees, and he sends messengers to come get her. She's going to get there, and David's going to be involved with her. It's very few words given to express all of this. Messengers come, take her to the palace. In our culture today, we this is what we identify as being rape. I'm just saying that is the difference in how culture has come, and that's what we would call this. It's certainly, at the very least, an abuse of power, and that's an understatement. Well, of course, we know she is pregnant, and David is going to try to hide this thing. She's a married woman. And she's married to a Hittite who's out fighting. David's the king. He's at home. The Hittite, the foreigner, he's actually out fighting, doing responsible things on behalf of the Hebrew people. David's going to call him from the battle lines. And ask him for a report. And tell him, by the way, since you're home, you might as well go home and relax. In other words, you're coming home to your wife from the battlefield. Take advantage of the opportunity, my friend. However, Uriah, the husband of Bathsheba, continues to show a man of honor that he is. He's not going to go inside and sleep in his bed with his wife when his comrades are still fighting. That's not very fair. That's not honorable. So David has a problem. David gets him drunk, tells him to go and take advantage of the opportunity with his wife, and he's still not going to do it. So David sends a letter sealed that Uriah is going to carry back to the battlefield to the commanding officer Joab, that says, form a wedge, put Uriah there at the middle of it, and then have your men withdraw, except for Uriah. He's going to be stranded. He's going to fall. And so he does fall in battle. And so Uriah's wife hears that he's dead. She mourns. And then, of course, don't you know, David is there, and he's ready to step up after this woman's mourning and be something of a hero. And so the story hardly ends here, and 2 Samuel this is hardly the peak of intrigue in 2 Samuel. This is only the beginning of a pattern that we will see. And so at this point, we can mourn ourselves because our hero is looking a little more like a villain at this point. All right, I will see you again on the next reading.